Hello, and welcome to the first interview in our We Are BBC Good Food series, in which we introduce you to our team and contributors. I'm Christine Hayes, Editor in Chief, and I'm delighted to welcome our first guest, Chef Kerth Gumbs, who you'll recognise from BBC Two's Great British Menu. Kerth is exec chef at Ormer at Fleming's Hotel in London. Hi, Kerth, how are you doing?
Hey, Christine, I'm good, thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it before your busy lunchtime service.
Yeah.
I just wondered if you'd share with us how you first became interested in cooking.
This started from a very young age. My mom was a very good chef. She still is a very good chef. She used to cater to various different events. She used to work always in hotels. You know, she was catering to birthday parties, funerals, weddings, and it was something that I grew up with in terms of seeing her cook and making other people happy and having lots of songs of appreciation. But it didn't really sink into me like I wanted to be a chef at that point. It's just something that I was around in terms of everywhere she goes, she, maybe tag with me along. And, at that time, you can see it as something that's quite boring, just standing around watching and waiting for hours and hours for your mom to finish cook while she's having long conversations. So it was a bit daunting. But in high school, you have a choice to choose between auto mechanics, food nutrition, and woodwork. And at this time, I decided to go around, do my own little assessments, and you walk around and see which class you're gonna be more interested into. And woodwork and auto mechanics was dominated by boys, just banging away with things, looking underneath of hoods, chiseling away, ping, 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 pam, 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 pam. That's what the boys, that's what they do. That's what they did. And when I walked across towards the food nutrition class, it had 15 girls and just two boys. And I was like, whoops, that's the class for me. I'm going in there. But at the end of it, when I went into food nutrition class, in all honesty, it's like, back in the Caribbean, things was a bit hard, and you never knew when your next proper meal is going to be. And I was thinking, you know what, if I join this class, at least I'm going to get a chance to eat what I produced. And for me, that was a win-win. I went to food nutrition class, and after a month and so forth, the teachers was putting the three boys against the girls, and then they were encouraging and really saying like, oh, you're actually really good, or you're doing well, and da da da. And then from there, it started to kick in. We got scouts come to the school from Le Cordon Bleu like one time, and they started to tell us a little bit more about what's your next steps after you finish high school. But once finishing high school, me and one of my best friends, we decided to open a pizzeria. It just made sense because his uncle was one of the leading had a leading bakery in the island, so we had all the facilities in there to be able to make pizza, so you don't have a lot of costs in buying new equipment. So we set out, we did that like 16, 17 years old for like a year and a half, and then from there I went into the hotel as an expediter and a waiter, and that's when I started to see a little bit more and learn how to carry trays and talk to guests, and just seeing the heat of the kitchen. I would watch the chefs, when they used to do that flambe stuff and wine and flames going up, and it just sucks you in. It was so much passion.
The drama.
Yeah. So after that, it was along the course that I was doing, but I still wasn't saying that I want to be a chef because, running parallel to this, I used to still do my athletics. So I was very heavily involved into track and field, and I had a scholarship that fell through. And after that, I was like at a point in my life where I was like, well, you know what? What can I do? What would be my next steps? I found it as an injustice, so to say. And I just like mentioned some things to my father like very quickly, and that was in like 2003 September. And then he came up with all, he was quite happy to hear me say, oh, I probably want to pursue culinary and go to cooking school. And, between 2003 September, I was in London on the 1st of January 2004. So in the space of 3 months, it was enroll into school, pack up, say goodbye, and just go. Get your way, get into the world and try to just make something different. So that's what I did. And eventually it was on the path of doing that, something that resonated with me, which was cooking. And then, yeah, the rest was just mounting my way and plodding along, trying to conquer the food scene in London, which, again, once I reached it, that blew my mind. I mean, everything blew my mind at that stage. First time I saw snow, first time I've been on a train, it was just amazing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a long way, isn't it, from Anguilla to Mayfair and where your restaurant Ulma is. Can you tell us a little bit about Ulma and the style of food that you cook it's a very, fair to say it's fine dining.
Yes. So Oma Mayfair, we've been opened for about 4 years, since 2016. And yeah, I came on board when this was just a nutshell and nothing was really in place like that there yet. And we have to build it up. And what we've been doing is just improving year to year for the style of food that we do. So you can say it's modern British. There is accents of different cuisine involved, where they could be a little bit Mediterranean. I have a little few Asian flavors, but that's more to say it is complementary towards the clientele that we have in the area that we cook in. So Omar has been just evolving in that sense in terms of the food that we produce, the service that we're trying to do.
So have you adapted your service or menu since the current crisis?
Yes, I have actually, and one of the things that we've done, we've kind of limited the amount of approaches the waiters will go to the table, and how we've done that by, for instance, before you'll get your bread, then you'll get a boost, then you'll get your starter, and that's like foot traffic back and forth to your table over different periods in time during your experience. But what we do now, after you get bread, we consolidate it by serving the starter and amise bouche together at the same time. For your desserts, we will serve the dessert and the petit four together at the same time. So you don't have to get your dessert and then wait and we come back, you get a coffee, then wait, come back, you get the petit fours. So that's like limiting at least 2 to 3 different steps in terms of the amount of times the waiters would approach your table. We've luckily we have the restaurant where we can afford to have a little bit more space, which is good for the front part of the restaurant and back part of the restaurant. So it's still really friendly, and that's one of the main things that we've done in terms of being more accessible towards the people that's coming in, because we're forever high priority just trying to regain customers' confidence in what we do and try to get people to come out again. And I've also limited the menu in a sense for now. A lot of my dishes before, they always have kind of like a tag on, a two-piece dish. So now if I do that, I would serve it at the same time rather than before, and then you get the next course, etc. And we are looking to bump things up a little bit more. Again, once we see that we are able to, have a bit more foot traffic and regaining the trust and confidence of the guests.
So give us a couple of highlights on your menu. If I were to come in for dinner tonight, what would you suggest that I order?
I would say for a starter, you probably want to try the crab or the yellowtail ceviche. It's quite refreshing, the yellowtail ceviche. Um, if you're gonna try for a main course, I'd probably recommend you the lamb. I'll recommend you the sea bass or the black cod.
It's like you can see into my soul.
I will highly recommend a new dessert I have on the menu. It's like a eaten mess. My interpretation: you make the mess with a lemon, a fennel meringue, lemon verbena, raspberry and rose sorbet. It's absolutely delightful, very refreshing. But you don't have to take my word for it. You should come down and try it out.
Definitely will. And for those people who aren't able to get to the restaurant, are you doing any kind of delivery service?
Yes, I'm doing. We're doing home delivery services. Actually, this week and next week, I'm doing a collaboration which goes to 40 miles radius, also going nationwide for next weekend, and that as well is another way of doing our home delivery service. But a normal home delivery service at the restaurant is now within 5 miles radius, which you can find on Deliveroo, Supper, Uber Eats, all these applications. And we've been having good responses here and there, depending on the week. So yeah, it is available. It is available, and we try to as well have the dishes quite similar to what you'll have in the restaurant.
Well, we know that there's been, it's been a very tough time for chefs and restaurants being closed. But have you seen any positives come out of this sort of enforced lockdown?
Before I would say, still a bit like on the fence to understand and decide whether I think I've seen any positives. But what I would say immediately, like even like today, to be able to just connect with you on this new way of virtual online and doing interviews, it's not something that's in common ground for me. It's always a little bit apprehensive of these kind of things. But now we're finding a new norm, and we're finding accessibility towards it, and so this is a positive in terms of stepping out of our comfort zone, you can say. Yeah, but I'm looking a lot more to see what else positives you can get out of it, because it's so far the negatives has outweighed the positives. But as forthcoming in chefs, that as a chef, you take up challenges and we have to try to land on our feet again. I'm always the person to just look forward in terms of extracting some kind of positivity from this whole experience.
That's great. And so when we were in lockdown and you weren't in your restaurant, what did you miss the most?
I missed the drilling of service. I missed the Saturday night. I miss my chefs. Whether it's just feeding off of each other's energy, the conversations, the little banters, and most of all, what I love to do is just creating food, creating different dishes weekly and weekly. Always drafting and trialing some new creation, and having that facility just around to be able to do what I love doing as creating food. That is something that I missed. It's just a different buzz as for when you're in the kitchen. I can work 16, 15, whatever hours, and I'm not very weary. I'm not too tired. I don't have to go outside. I don't see the light of day. But if I'm in the kitchen and like you're in your element, I'm just going, and that's what you missed.
Did your family reap the rewards of that? Were you cooking more
Yeah,
at
definitely. I
home?
was trying all type of stuff. The kids was all over with little one-to-one classes, and whether it's bakings or the fun stuff, making Cinnabons, making Chelsea buns, muffins, you name it. We was just doing it, little barbecues, and they love having that little bit more of daddy time. Whether it's sitting watching cartoons, going off for a bicycle ride, or just doing a bunch of somersaults in the trampoline. So yeah.
I'd like to see that. I guess you must have got roped into cooking dinner every night as well. Have you got any recipes you can share with our audience that are quite simple to do at home?
Yeah, I would say right now during this period in time, we've been blessed with a very good weather, and it's been quite hot. I would go for the gazpacho. Cucumber gazpacho, it's very easy, simple to do with a Parmesan custard. I like the contrast between cold and creaminess of the Parmesan custard. And that's simple. You got I would say 2 cucumbers, 2 green peppers, 2 green chilies, half a bunch of basil, half a bunch of parsley, a bit of white wine or sherry vinegar if you have, about 40 mils. Again, sugar, about 20 grams, salt, about 10 to 15 grams of molten sea salt. And blitz that all together. Add about 2 slices of white bread, these is things that you can easily come across in your own home. And that's your gazpacho. Chill it down nice and cold, pass it your chinois. And for the Parmesan custard, it's just literally 250 mils of milk. You're going to have 75 grams of grated Parmesan cheese, slowly melt it down, whiz it in a blender, and then for every 100, add one bread to that as well, 1 slice of white bread. And for every 100 grams of that liquid, just add 2 eggs and put it in a steamer for about 15 minutes at 80 degrees. And that's your Parmesan custard to go with your cold cucumber gazpacho.
A very Mayfair quick supper. So we talked earlier about the fact that you come from Anguilla, and we asked you in the August issue of BBC Good Food to write about Anguilla for us. A lot of us aren't travelling at the moment, so can you bring Anguilla alive for us and tell us about the great food traditions?
Here we go. Get ready. Buckle up. So we're going to Anguilla. Yeah, especially at this point in time, in summer, it brings together all the festivities. You have carnival that's going on. You have August Money. You have boat racing, and from your first trip to the neighboring island of St. Martin, which you then catch that speedboat over to Anguilla, is where you first encounter a little bit of the pleasantries, where you have your complimentary rum punch cocktail,
Yes,
for
please. Sign me
yes.
up.
When you get that rum punch, that already gets you a little bit of that, soggy feeling. You reach over to the island, and from there, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and especially at this period now when there's, as I said, the carnival festivities, they will always have something to do going on, whether it's on the strip. And Fridays and Saturdays is really about the barbecuing, from pork, chicken, fish, whatever you name it, it's on the barbecue grills, and opposite stalls selling different array of stuff between dumplings and soups and curries and so forth, and that's something that everybody looks forward to, because when that is finished, you go into your Sundays and so forth. You're going over to we have like a lot of little. I mean, Anguilla itself is small, but we have a lot of little keys, little islands that's uninhabited. So we do a lot of parties, where you just travel from the island to that other little key, and there's real sense of, like, shacks, bamboos, trees, palm trees, coconut trees, and just sand, and you're just on there having like a little beach party for that afternoon on different days with different themes. And so it's like a little getaway, and you don't really have to go that far. You don't need to have border control or passports or anything. You just get on your little boat, and if you're good enough, you can even swim it over. So it's just about relax and real good fun. And the water is absolutely amazing. It's crystal clear. I mean, we have probably three of the top best beaches in the top 50 in the world, and they're very good. It's if you're gonna go, and you're gonna love a bit of let me down, crayfish, lobster, barbecues, some good old curries, and just enjoying people with a nice, hyperactive personalities who's just going to make everybody feel warm and welcome. And if that doesn't do it in terms of personalities, then the rum punches will. So, yeah.
That's true. Oh, thank you so much, Kerth. I really appreciate you sharing your experience and your knowledge with us. And everybody, you can find Kerth's Anguilla feature in the August issue of BBC Good Food, which is on now. And don't forget, you can hear more from Good Food on our weekly BBC Good Food podcast with Tom Kerridge, in which we discuss everything from baking to barbecues. So find it online at bbcgoodfood.com. Thank you, Kerth, and
Thank you,
have a great
Christine.
day.
Cheers for having me.